Hi, my name is Gordy Hogue, and this is Community Connection. Each of us have stories that help us understand each other and help to bring our community closer together. I have been very fortunate to have met many interesting people who've had a positive, profound impact on our community and far beyond. People who've had incredible life experiences and fascinating stories. Community Connections is about these people and about their stories. I'm sure you'll enjoy meeting these amazing people as much as I have. Thank you. Please enjoy. Welcome to Community Connections. My name is Gordy Hogue, and today's guest is a woman who moved to this community almost 15 years ago. And since then, she's had a profoundly positive impact, volunteering for many groups and at many events. And she's made a difference in the lives of women and girls through her work with Seroptimus International, and she is currently president of the White Rock chapter, which is this year celebrating 70 years, its platinum anniversary. Welcome, Jas Salh.
Thank you, God.
Pleasure to have you here. Now, how did your life evolve to coming to this community? Probably can't talk exactly about your birth, but you can talk about where you were born and how you progressed to this community.
I was born in India. So at a very young age, my dad emigrated to England, and that's where the first 33 years of my life were. And then I came to Canada, I would say 93, didn't like it, went back, but came back in 97 and settled down a little bit better than I did earlier. And try to settle down. I have to admit, it took me 10 years to settle down. And but I got a chance to work in this community in 2004 when the lady that I used to work for made a couple of racist comments, and I thought, I'm done with this. So I had a discussion with my manager, and he says, how about trying banking in White Rock? I said yes, because it was a smaller commute. I used to commute downtown. And my first volunteering job was the Peace Arch Gala, the Peace Arch Hospital Foundation Gala. And loved what they did, and to me it was a great way of making friends as well. And then I had been volunteering on a theater company before that, the Raymond Burr Performing Arts Society in the West with Ellie King. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Ellie King. And but even in England, I did English as a second language. I was part of the Labour Party in England. I lived in Margaret Beckett's riding. She was the foreign minister under Tony Blair. So yeah, volunteering has been in my blood, I guess. And service and my faith, it's called Seva in our faith, which means service. So it means giving back. That it's built around that. So here I am. I've been on many boards, but Seroptimus has always been close to my heart.
So what does the word Seroptimus mean?
Seroptim is a Latin word meaning best for women. And we are actually, this is White Rock Seroptimus is its 70th year, but the Seroptimus International is in its 99th year. So next year we're going to be celebrating our 100th year. And it's funny how it started a year after the women got the vote. So Violet Richardson, who was our founding member in 1921, she set up Seroptimist. I know it's not a word people tend to remember, but like I said, it means best for women, and that's what we do, improving the lives of women and girls. And what I really like about it is we stay local. Even though we're an international affiliated organization, the money we raise, the granting that we do is local.
So you talked a little bit, you mentioned that there were some racist comments when you were working somewhere other than this community, and then were asked to come to this community. Did you find it difficult fitting into communities at all, or?
No, this community reminded me of a small British village. That's what at that time, it looks very different now. But when I came in 2004, I loved it. And where I worked at the bank that I worked with, they would give me all the British clients because I understood them. and also I understood some of their, because some were retired, so I understood the connection back to England and some of the financial aspects in England. So I made a lot of, it was that kinship that I found. And then when I became an advisor in my own right in 2006, That's what really anchored me to White Rock and South Surrey, because now I felt my clients were relying on me and I was loving the work that I was doing. And I've always believed in, if you want the community that you want, you've got to be part of that change, and you've got to sort of make those changes.
So in terms of, you're comparing it a little bit to the community in England, a small community in England. What was it about the participation or the connectedness that happens that
it felt everybody knew each other, everybody knew everybody else. It's sort of, the little boutique shops, on the waterfront down it used to be around where Hillcrest Bakery was. Well, even the bakery, they had some of the British cookies that I liked, just the little aspects. I think there was a British store down there too somewhere. So that gave me a piece of home. Just that feeling of belonging. Until I had moved into this area, I didn't feel like I belonged. Because I certainly didn't belong downtown. I knew that.
So this social connectedness that
yeah,
you were
totally. And and volunteering, especially through Soroptimist. Denise introduced me. She became my good friend, and then she introduced me to the Women's Center. Is how I made friends. I didn't make friends at work. I made friends through my volunteering and the giving back. The other thing always got me was, I remember watching Oprah at one time when she used to do her Angel Network, and she always said, the more that you give, the more it comes back to you. And I believe those words. I feel blessed.
And then Denise, you're referring to as Denise Darnell.
Denise Darrell, yes, from Sources, yeah. And Sources is another passion that's close to my heart. It used to be the Peace Arch Community Services at one time, and we as Soroptimist used to support them, likewise on the Women's Shelter and various other programs that they run. And then obviously Denise, the Women's Services fell under Sources, and great relationship with David Young. I find Sources is like a one-stop shop.
So can you talk a little bit about the kind of services that Soroptimist International provide within this community? I know that you were a part of Atira and part of the events that started in terms of Women's Place and a number of the Lifeline. What type of things have you done and do you plan to do in this community?
Our flagship program has been called Restart Program. It's where women that leave abusive relationships or domestic violence or whatever trauma they've suffered, they go into a transition home, maybe with the children, and then when they are ready to leave the transition home, the transition home contacts us. We never meet them. The home contacts us, and we provide them once they found a place to stay. Just basic items like new bedding, kitchenware, small appliances, even simple things like an iron and broom and a mop, just to get them going. Nobody wants secondhand items when they're trying to restart their life. So we give them new things. So we have great relationships with Walmart. Like we can get a duvet for $5 from there. And sort of the relationship, we used to have the Army and Navy too, but I think they've closed down now. So we would provide that if they have children, we'll get jammies, toys, bedding for the kids. It's all new items. Nothing is used. And we help them, restart their life again. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we never know. We've done our bit. The other program that I love is the Elizabeth Fry Society, where the children, the parents that are incarcerated read bedtime stories, or they record a bedtime story for their child. And that recording is then given to the child and they can listen to the parent reading that bedtime story. To me, that's great because it keeps that connection with the parent. Just hearing their voice, I think it gives them that connection.
And I know that I believe that at Tira, we had the first seniors transition house in North America for women. And
is it Tira or Alma House?
It was under a Tira, but it was under that umbrella, and certainly yes. the contributions that Soroptimist International make to allowing that transition to take place yes. Is so important in terms of people getting themselves set up and moving back to the community again.
The road hasn't been smooth. I remember we celebrated our 65th birthday, and then on our 67th year, we were down to like 5 members. We were about to hand our charter back, and we had the governor come sit down with us. We were in my boardroom, and just this sort of sadness, this, we tried, and because we couldn't get members, some people moved on, and we were about to hand the charter back, and the governor says, don't do it, and then suddenly, I think somebody says, well, we'll bring in members from another area, and then Denise and I just looked at each other, it's like all of a sudden I says, over my dead body. And I said, I'll be president again. And then, Denise says, I'll be vice president. And Liz goes, I'll be treasurer. And, Sarah says, I'll do the minutes. And then we were back up again. And then we started recruiting members, doing like a membership drive. We're now up to 14. And through that article, we've got another prospective 4 coming for our next meeting. So we're really excited about that.
And when I was reading the history of the club, I saw that 2 of the members from a long time ago were Margaret Lower, who I knew extremely well on White Rock Council, and Betty Huff, who was my grade 3 teacher at White Rock Elementary School. So,
and actually, one of our members used to be your babysitter, Gordy.
Oh, who was that? Barbara?
I forget what her last name would have been. She used to babysit you and John.
That must have been a challenge for her. Educating her well in terms of how it happens. So
talking of those people that we had through that article in the paper, we had a lady contact me, and she said I did not know you still existed. So she said that we had made a grant. This is back in 1953. We made a grant to her because she was wanting to become a teacher. So we made a grant of $125 to her that allowed her to become a teacher. And she taught locally, like at Semi-Ammon School, I think Chanterelle Elementary. So she taught, and she finally came to us and she goes, I want to pay it back. So she made quite a large donation to us. And I think that's brilliant. She's 84 years old now.
Wow. Yeah. Now, I noticed on your website, you talk about Dream Awards too.
Live it, be it, or live it, dream it is used to be known as the Violet Richardson Award, but they changed it to make it more sense. That award that we grant is granted to a woman who's the head of the household that is using education to turn her life and the life of her family around. So it's usually a woman that's either, had gone through an abusive relationship, domestic violence or whatever, poverty, and then she is either training to be something or educating herself. So that money has to go towards that education.
So how would you explain the roles that other women might have if you were trying to encourage them to become involved in Seroptimus International? What are the things that would attract them to contributing in that fashion?
You know what? We're just fun. We just love having fun. We have some great debates. We put the whole world to right, and then we go away, kind of thing. We've got retired women. We've got professional women. We've got, age groups from, young as maybe 20 right up to 80. And, it was growing enough that it'd be nice to have a fundraising committee. It'd be nice to have a membership committee. It would be nice to have a social media committee, things like that to get the word out. The other thing we want to do is we want to bring in the next generation, because some of us they retired from work, then they volunteer. Now they're retiring from volunteer because age is catching up with them. But we want to, bring in the next generation, get them involved, because things don't happen. There is such a need for what we do in the community. If we didn't do, the government, you can't expect the government to provide everything. So you need local organizations that are at ground level, helping people in need. So it'd be nice to get the young generation. If you think about it, we get anxiety, we get social anxiety, because in the days gone by, that's what people did. They joined Rotary, they joined, the Girl Scout or Boy Scouts or whatever. They didn't sit at home and become lonely people with that distrust and how can I put it, sort of belonging to the dark web, as I want to say it. You want to come out, and if you want to belong to a club. You can't beat social contact.
And I see that you also have an international presence in terms of looking at sex trafficking and mutilation and do you contribute to that, or is that there's an international presence? How large is Soroptimist International?
Actually, the best way to compare us is think of Rotary. Rotary is an international organization, and actually that is how Soroptimist started.
Oh.
So when in 1921, when Rotary would not allow women to become members, so Violet Richardson went up and set up Soroptimist. So as time has gone on, Rotary now allows women to become members, but we still don't have men as members. So yeah, so you know what? Same thing. Rotary, Soroptimist, same thing.
Yeah. So it's in, I understand, 121 countries and got close to 80,000 members around the world. So it's a very,
Yes.
very large organization that can have a pretty significant impact on the lives of people throughout the world.
No, totally. We actually have a seat on the UN as well. So, it's all, and the lady that's the president of the total organization, her name is Sharon Fisher, and she's local. She belongs to the Lancaster Optimist. So, it's amazing. And some of I know this sounds horrific, but one of the growing issues in Canada is genital mutilation, because people move here, they still want to follow some of their traditions, and it's hidden, but it's growing. Female genital mutilation is one of the things that Soroptimist International is dealing with.
So how do you, is it just fundraising, raising awareness, working with people who are in those circumstances?
Yeah. And championing some of our international programs. So, and I think Sharon's program was gender equality. So hey, I don't want people to think of us just sort of, the feminist. I call ourselves like the soft feminist, because we want to keep what our grandmothers fought for. When you look across the border, with Justice Barrett now, you could lose all the rights that women fought for. And yes, it's across the border, but who's to say that it cannot seep through to here?
So how do you protect against those types of things happening? Is that encouraging women to be more involved, although lots of them are incredibly involved, but making statements and ensuring they're dealing with those issues locally and provincially and internationally?
And it starts local. It has to start local and then feed up through your MLA or your councillors, MPs, the organization, whatever is, it has to be fed through. Like I said, that's why we have that seat on the UN. So bigger issues are fed through to Soroptimist International, and then they're the ones that take it forward and champion that cause.
So at a local level, then, do you make presentations as well to city councils and to provincial legislatures?
You know what, we haven't been able to because of the low membership, but it is something that definitely we want. We want to be more of a presence. People say, I have never heard of you. Well, we don't want to be the best kept secret anymore, as they say. So no, yeah, we'd love to be able to, get in front of council, yeah.
So I read your mission statement, which says improving the lives of women and girls through programs leading to social and economic improvement. So you've talked a little bit about the social programs and some of the economic improvements. So those are the primary mission statements, and then you more broadly reach out to other organizations, to levels of government to respond to those?
Yes, we get gaming. We get some gaming money from BC Gaming, which we then grant out locally. So we usually put out a request. So local organizations, and then we have a granting reception. And, we've supported Alexander House, Elizabeth Fry is another one. The Kensington Day Place is another one we supported. The Sources. I mean, to me, something that's close to my heart is legal services at Sources, because they deal with poverty law. Yeah. I mean, with legal aid being cut back so much, there are so many women that I see actually through my work as well, that I see women not having the full representation because they can't afford to, can't afford that lawyer. So legal services are there to help them prepare for their court cases. So, and and we had this conversation the other day with the Crown prosecutor. So she said, women complain about it, it's always unfair, but women can only make changes if women pursue those changes. Yeah, you can't sort of, and sometimes women give up because, statistics say a woman will go back to an abusive relationship 11 times before she'll finally make that move. And that's purely because finances. So I really try and work with women, educate women, empower women financially so that they are better prepared and well informed to make some of those decisions should something happen.
And I've read some economists' reports over the past few years that talked about since the end of the Second World War and through the Industrial Revolution, that there's been a lot of money going to governments to support a number of these social programs. But the challenges are becoming now more dramatic, and there's more and greater reliance on community organizations to support and work with that. Do you seeing some of that as well?
Yes, yes. And the pandemic, I think, has highlighted that more. Definitely highlight that more. When you really put together all these volunteers, think of the hours, and really, if they had to be paid in dollars, how much more money the government would have to provide. Volunteers are real champions because they fill in that gap that government or your local council government that can't fulfill.
Yeah.
Which really shows that there is a need.
Yeah, and sort of that social connectedness that comes through that process, which it doesn't happen in the same way when you're looking at governments and the management of government in that process. They can't have that, or it's very difficult for them to have that real social connectedness and that visceral emotive connectedness.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things that again, the other thing is we need more members, because what I would like to do is have an outreach program, maybe Zoom, to reach out. There are a lot of lonely women out there, elderly women that have no social contact. I found that through my work, where I did one call and she said that was the first contact she'd had in weeks. This was earlier on in the pandemic. So then I started doing the Friday afternoon, 3 o'clock, like a social cocktail hour, where women can just log on and just sort of have some kind of a connection. But what to me is you can't beat physical connections. So.
Is there an awareness of the kind of work that you do in the school system and with younger people?
We haven't been able to do that. Again, it's down to having people that have the time to be able to do that, to go into local schools. If you think of Rotary has a youth program. Yeah. Soroptimist doesn't. That's something that I would love to champion, is a Soroptimist youth program, get girls involved, because really, you want to be able to pass the torch. So.
And in many ways, I wonder about whether or not there is some synergies that can happen amongst the service clubs in the community to look at, because most of the service clubs have at their root the same values, but those values are reflected in different types of programs and actions.
That was something that when I was president of the Surrey Foundation years ago, now known as Surrey Cares, that was something that I always used to try and reach out to the other organizations, is we're all after the same dollars. Everybody's after the same dollars, and there are so many programs that are duplicated. If we really got together and formed some kind of a joint syndication or something, you can say, you know what, you take care of that, I'll take care of this, and we can take care of that. Think of the efficiency of that program, because I see local organizations, everybody's got their hand out for the same dollars.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, even though we are a nonprofit, we really have to think of it as a way, it's for profit. We're a nonprofit, but we need to make a profit. The government can only do so much. You've got to start being a little bit more sustainable. You've got to start think of it as a bit of like an entrepreneurial.
Yes. And I think I read in some of the information I was reading about Soroptimist International and about primarily about the local group, was that you're describing your kind of your rebirth from having few members and the growth that's coming out of it. And I think somebody used the phrase quiet good.
Yes, yeah, I like that. Yeah, the quiet good. And that's because, as you know, women never toot their own horn. Women aren't taught to toot their own horn. Women tend to do, well, it's like running a household. You just do it quietly. Very rarely do you complain. But we just quietly go about our business. We don't need accolades. We don't need recognition. You're absolutely right, Gord. It's the quiet good. Yeah. The unsung heroes.
Yeah, whether that's applies to all women. I certainly am married to one that I don't think that applies to. She is pretty dramatically
pretty vocal, yes.
opinion, as do many. There are a lot of powerful women are out there expressing.
And there are, and I think women are starting to come in their being. Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
Which is why I would hate to lose that momentum with the way I feel the world is going.
Yeah, I think that we're seeing greater equity and as we move forward, and I think that that's a wonderful thing. But we've got to keep the momentum going, and
Yes.
some of the things we're seeing and hearing about internationally, in
Yes.
terms of the type of divisiveness that's starting to occur, some of the challenges that are happening just through what happens with social media. People who seem to be out on that fringe and have
Yes,
different approaches.
Yeah.
They're being connected socially, whereas in the past, through social media in the past, they seem to be isolated. But there's a lot of challenges in terms of what's happening to democracies and the challenges around that. But we must protect in our own communities and ensure that we do everything to reinforce those values.
You know what, it's sort of, we're social creatures. We're not designed to be sitting on our own. And that's when people go on, like I said, they join these online group chats or whatever, that sometimes lead them down a dark path. And their vision and their thinking gets distorted. So to me is, you know what, come out, look for these clubs, because we need you.
So you've described wonderfully a number of things that are happening societally and the challenges there, and the role that Soroptimist International locally, the difference that it's making. If you have any final messages you'd like to give to any of our listeners and encouragement, and in terms of the vision and the challenges that societally we're facing and that are being managed and in some ways being directed and focused through the work of Soroptimist International in our community.
You know what, it's been very difficult to fundraise, so any donations would be welcome. Anybody that's interested in finding out about the club can come as a guest to one of our meetings, see if this is something close to their heart. We are doing virtual meetings as well, so if you cannot physically come, I have a boardroom here. We're trying to do the social distance meeting, but we can also do it via Zoom. You can join in via Zoom. We do meet on the second Wednesday of each month. We have dinner at the beginning, a social hour where everybody can have a good chat, and then the meeting starts at 6:30, done by 8 o'clock. And the meetings are local. So yeah, and if there's something that you are interested in bringing to the table, we would love to hear from you.
And I remember reading somewhere that there were 3 E's that Soroptimist International talked about: to educate, to empower, and to enable. And I think that those are principles, are values that reflect well the mission statement of Soroptimist International. So thank you very much, Jas.
Thank you, God, for the opportunity.
And that Soroptimist International does in this community, across this country, and indeed in 121 countries around the world.
Yeah.
Best wishes to you. Thanks so much for making our community a better, more personable, more friendly community. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today on Community Connections. Please tune in to our next show as more amazing people share their wonderful stories. If you haven't already, please click on the red subscribe button below, right down there, and view our updates. Feel free to leave any thoughts or comments that you may have. We're always trying to do a better job of connecting this wonderful community. Thanks again for joining, and until next time, keep connecting. Thank you.